What's good? It's your boy Logic back in here with another video. Man, I'm watching this dude on TikTok, man. Shout out to Beast Mode Smooth. And one of the videos, he played a compilation of TikToks, and one of the longer ones was this, about middle age, about 35 year old white guy. I think he had like 2 kids, right? And he was going over scenarios in which he interacts with females, and and how he tries to approach them. Like he said, like, hey, I was out for dinner with my kids, and this waitress was very flirtatious, kind of hinting about her work schedule, letting her kind of dropping hints that she's single. She was very kind to my kids. He said she went down to eye level to my 3-year-old and really interacted with him, while she was probably, providing service and stuff like that. And he said, man, like, I mean, she's cute and she's like really, and she was also a single mom, so take that with what you will. But, she was really in tune with like children, like, which would make sense. She's a single mom, and if she's good with her kids, the transition would be smooth sailing. You know what I'm saying? Last thing you want to do is you want to get actually, you do want a woman that doesn't have kids, even if you have kids. But then the little caveat of a woman who does have kids, she knows how to interact with kids. So, like I said, in his mind, he's logicking this shit up, just like I would. And I would say, you know what? I'm gonna shoot my shot. Ask her out. And she said, oh, that's nice. And then, and then he's like, oh, what, you got a boyfriend? She said, no, I'm just not interested. I said, damn, I wish you would at least said you had a boyfriend. I mean, it still wouldn't excuse like the flirtatious and stuff, what, like, I know you can argue this plausible deniability shit that women technically use, because what's flirting to me is not necessarily flirtatious to you, and it's like, and that line in the sand is different. It moves around based on gender, so it's really you can't really hold her accountable for that. Like, you can, but you don't have enough evidence to do it. So I know in his mind he was like, what the fuck, this doesn't make sense. But you almost have to let that go, because that could just be in her nature, or that could just be her personality. Like, she's really nice, like extremely nice, to where it blurs that line between flirtatious and nice. And he also said that I think he might have said there was another incident or whatever, but he said there was a group of girls that he bought some drinks for some girls, and then he like got the courage to like put his number on a napkin or whatever, and that really takes courage, especially when a girl is surrounded by her friends. And the advice people usually give to females is that if you are single and you're looking to find a guy, if you go somewhere with your group of friends, you have to find, obviously you're there with your friends, maybe they drove together or whatever, but I would say periodically separate from time to time. Give yourself a few minutes away from your friends so that guys can have an opportunity to approach. Now, I mean, like, I wouldn't even say communicate that with your friends. I would just say, know that intuitively, that if you want to be approached, that guys are a lot more comfortable when you're by yourself. And I say don't discuss this with your friends, because yeah, you might sit here and tell me that you and your friends are tight, y'all are childhood friends, y'all known each other for years, shit. But women tend to try to sabotage other girls' like relationships and game and shit. Like she could be your best friend, whatever. All girls are competing with each other, regardless. Doesn't matter if y'all best friends or worst enemies or whatever. If a guy is approaching one girl out of like the 3 of y'all, a girl's gonna feel some kind of way, like, man, why didn't he approach me? Or she ain't all that, or is she prettier than me? And she gonna be second guessing like her shit. So her instinct is to try to sabotage it in little subtle ways and shit. Like maybe when that after that guy approaches, she might go around you and try to lay it on a lot thicker, to where she puts in that guy's head that, hey, I'm more of a sure bet. Like, you're taking a risk with her, but I'm willing to get down and dirty, or whatever. So that's why I say I would not really discuss it necessarily with your friends, because then she'll know what's up. Just know that you want to go out for some air or something, with your thoughts, or make up some type of excuse where you need to separate from your friends for a few minutes. But like I said, let's get back to the guy. The guy wrote his number on a napkin or whatever, and he never got a call back. So he's talking to his friends, and he's like, man, I fucked it up. I don't know what's wrong, whatever. And I'm like, look, here's the thing. You didn't do nothing wrong. The world is wrong. Like, and I'll say this. It started with the text messages. Yes, girls have been cheating since the beginning of time, but there was a lot more risk involved. So, she'd actually have to step out physically. She couldn't just log in and then just fuck you over. So, phones started it, but still, you can kind of, track that, whatever. There was one phone to one household. Girls didn't have their own shit. It was one household. Phones were expensive back in the day. So, yeah, you could talk. But when that phone bill come in, you could probably track, like, hey, who's this number, and you could probably, like, basically she would know that, hey, my actions could be tracked. Like, you know what I'm saying? Then once, like, the cell phones and the texting started coming in to play, and then, everybody got their own phone at this point when cell phones popped up. So now, outside of you keeping track of your phone, you'd have to kind of keep track of her phone, and then technically, it's her phone. So it's like, you don't really have no right. It's like, it's one thing if it's the house phone, but now that since it's her phone, you got to ride this line of, like, not trying to be insecure about, like, whatever, right? So then once phones got even more sophisticated, and then it started having online capabilities. Well, before it was, you had to maybe bump into a guy, right? Let's say you're a girl and you got a dude. You'd have to bump into a guy, like, while your man's not around, somehow exchange numbers real fast, like, whether he wrote it down or he plugged it in or whatever. And then you'd have to, like, plot and plan when you can kind of, like, call them and get together and stuff, right? With the internet, you don't even have to bump into guys in your, like, neighborhood. The world is your oyster, right? So you have unlimited options, meaning that it doesn't matter what guy you pick, or let's say you choose, X guy for right now. In the back of your mind, that you, as a female, you have millions of options. There's a potential that you could always do better, and that as soon as this dude starts slipping in any kind of way, you can go right back online and just pluck another guy, right off the internet, right? So, you can look. Here's the thing: relationships come with sacrifice, right? There's some things the guy's gonna sacrifice, and there's gonna be some things the girls want to sacrifice. But because women are the chaste, and men are driven by their libido, the world is driven by it. I mean, like, if sexual desire didn't exist, humanity would be in a whole different situation. A woman, like I said, once she turns like 16 and finds out that men want sex, what the internet has done is that she can string along really infinite men, as many as she can keep track, right? She can say, oh, I just lost my job and my phone's going to get cut off. This is one of the easiest, because remember, once her phone's gone, you can't talk to her no more. The communication is going to get cut off. So paying her phone bill is it's like it's a two-pronged thing. It's like, all right, I'm giving up money, but at the same time, I'm allowing her to continue like talking to me. Like, you know what I'm saying? So you're thinking like, yeah, it's kind of funny because she's, needs like a handout, but this handout kind of coincides with her, keeping in contact. So it's kind of like, okay, well now let's say the phone bill's $100, right? New phone, let's say it's an iPhone, bill's expensive, whatever. Let's say I think $100 is expensive for a phone bill, right? So let's say she says, hey, my phone bill's $100, right? And let's say she's talking to 6 guys, right? Easy. That's easy to, put a little emoji next to their name, help you remember it. You could tell a guy, 6 guys every month. Let's say you said you lost your job, and let's say it takes you, it's going to take you like 2 to 3 months to like get back on your feet or whatever. So for the next 3 months, you can get $600 for free because each one of these guys thinks that they're paying your phone bill so they can continue talking to you, right? And then you can take that $600, and you're still working, but you can take that $600, and that's rent. That's rent. Free rent. You basically got free rent, right? And then once these guys catch on, and the money stops, you can just get a new batch of 6. And she barely has to give out any box. Remember, this is in the first couple months. It's maybe a slightly long distance, so that, and you can always play off the, I don't know you that well to get flown out and do all this other stuff. So a guy might be more accepting about, all right, I gave her a few $100s over the course of 3 months, whatever. And then all of a sudden she just got to come up with an excuse or cut you off. And next thing you know, the shit just drops. And then, like I said, she can get another 6 niggas. And then she got $600 for another couple months. Girls know they can do this. And see, girls right now with feminism and shit, they're not prioritizing relationships. They're prioritizing money. And as soon as a woman prioritizes money, you're just a wallet, right? Now, men were always wallets, but they were also other things too. Forms of protection, a possible father figure, a masculine role model, someone you can consult and all this other stuff like that. They, in a relationship, there'll be a lot of other things. But since a woman is not prioritizing relationship and they're prioritizing money, she's going to do whatever it takes to get the money, right? The worst thing a woman can really do outside of being an assassin, which most girls wouldn't have the balls to do that, is to sell her body, right? Or the idea of possibly getting access to the body. And with the internet and basically, if you know how to navigate the internet, you can pinpoint certain communities where the most thirsty of men are. Most men are thirsty in general, but you can even target even the worst of the worst men that are quick to hand out money. Hell, you could send him maybe a picture of your tits or something, and that'll reinforce or encourage him sending you a couple dollars. Like he feels like he's getting a little bit, and eventually it's going to lead into something. It's almost like virtual friend zone on a massive scale. But women really don't want men for what men are really needed for anymore. Because they make their own money, this and that. But deep down, they really want to spend your money. So they'll never really commit. Because there's too many guys handing out money for basically no reason, right? And that's because the internet has given them access to basically every guy on the planet. Every guy that has internet, they basically have access to, right? So, here's the thing. People have to be manipulated to do the right things. They have to feel bad about doing the wrong things or be encouraged to do the right thing. Typically, people just don't do it on their own. They say that people are inherently good, but once they get exposed to the elements, which is the world and the corruption and shit, typically when society held everybody up to a certain moral character and they shamed certain behaviors and stuff, it kind of forced people to do the right thing regardless. Even if they had a thought like, hey, I'm gonna do some fuck shit, they like, but then people think of me like this and this and that and whatever, and I don't want that, and I'm gonna be looked at as a good character, so I won't do that shit. Once we got rid of shaming, hell, like the fact that they have slut shaming as a thing, like it's bonkers. Where sluts were like the worst thing you could have as a girlfriend is a slut. It's literally the worst thing is a slut. Your whole neighborhood knows and has fucked her, and like it's embarrassing. Literally, it was worst thing. They turned it into like something to be celebrated. You literally took the word. That's like saying like murder is now celebrated. Like that's like the flip side for guys. Like murdering is now celebrated. Taking life is now. It used to be the worst thing a man could do, and now it's celebrated. That's how retarded it sounds. But that's the way society, because society got away from shaming, and actually everybody is addicted to drugs at this point. Everybody's addicted to drugs, and I mean this like not even just like the internet is a drug, right? Like it's not even like really the internet. It's the emotions that it pulls out of people that is very addicting. People, I'll say this, we're in feel-good culture, right? I call it feel-good culture. And what feel-good culture is that they will shame you for saying or doing anything that goes against their thought process in the hopes that they force you to basically acquiesce to whatever points that they're trying to make, if not see your downfall for opposing those views. So, like I said, if a girl's fat and you're not trying to date her, or she tries to ask you out and you're like, oh, I'm good, or whatever like that, she'll shame you. She'll say something about you being like fat shaming or whatever like that. And if you don't circle back and try to give her a shot, you'll be labeled as fat phobic or something. And then if you have some type of name that's worth anything, you're going to lose your shit. And then she'll feel good about it. Basically, you cannot make people feel bad at all for their inadequacies or whatever. No one has to improve, well, except for men. But as far as the female side of things, they're godly-like beings that come in all different shapes and sizes, and there is no flaws. They're like their flaws are like beauties in their flaw. Like, you know what I'm saying? There's no flawed female, right? And if they're charged or accused of doing evil deeds or whatever like that, unless you caught it on tape, it never happened. So as long as we live in a society where we prioritize people's feelings and having them feel good, oh, there's 100 genders, believe all women, and whatever, we'll never get where as a society, because we can't even shame people into doing the right shit. Like right now, society, pretty much humans are going to think themselves out of existence. We've taken simple concepts and complicated it to the point where our numbers are going to dwindle. We're going to go extinct, and it won't have to do it. It won't be a pandemic. It won't be a meteor. It won't be shit. It'll just be the feud between the sexes as far as knowing your biological and evolutionary role in the grand scheme of things and prioritizing your own self-indulgences to the point where life ceased to exist. Her self-indulgences and purpose, and some men too, that are on some weird shit. Everybody's personal happiness overrides human existence. You know what I'm saying? So I'm like, Well, we're going to think ourselves out of existence because we're going against our biological natures, because we have nothing important to do. Our lives have been too peaceful for too long, to the point that we just create bullshit scenarios to champion and force down people's throat, so that we look virtuous and like a hero or whatever, for some type of clout, so that we can draw attention to ourselves to make ourselves feel good. That's the world today. That's what the internet has done. It has connected us on a superficial level. Like, we're the most connected and the most disconnected at the same time. The more barriers you put between you and another human, whatever you're trying to communicate always gets more. Hell, text messages were the first things to get misunderstood because you can't read tone, typos and misunderstandings and shit. And that was just through texting. And now we got to the point where people are completely different personalities online. People say they're into this and do this stuff, and they're not. Hell, people can say that they're a boy or girl, and they're not. Like, people create whole new personas and personalities and lifestyles online for clout, because we put another barrier in between us. But we're all connected. We can talk to anybody across the world, yet we're not talking to real people. And that's the world. So it's, like I said, the illusion of options and all this stuff, it's keeping women from linking up with people, men in their vicinity, someone who's lived in the same ecosystem, someone that, like I said, people, women in particular, want to be stimulated so bad, whether it be good or bad, long as their emotions ride waves. And maybe I'll say, like, let's say there's periods of good shit and some subtle bad shit, but ultimately, like, they want they crave for the influx of emotions, so that they just feel stimulated in some way. There must be some like chemical release or something that girls just they've become addicted to it, because once they've gotten on the internet, showed their ass, showed their tits, said some weird shit, and they got a lot of likes, they started getting addicted to it, right? It happens with men too, but not on the same scale. And since women are more emotional, they feed into it even more. So they pretty much ignore the real world, and then they start prioritizing the digital world, where they're not even interacting with real people selling them dreams, scamming, and all this other stuff. And what happens is girls have become way more bitter. And once reality checks them at around like 35, 40 years old, then they start realizing, like, they need to start communicating with people in the real world. They're so damaged through their social interactions, fucking around online and thinking people are this or that, and they're not really talking to real people, that they're spinsters. They're a waste on society. They're almost as bad as homeless men, because they're, at least homeless people, I mean, aside from them being in the way and shit like that, women are they're sucking up resources. Single women suck up more resources than homeless men, because the government got to pay for them. They're not producing kids to populate society. You know what I'm saying? They're wasting space and resources. But like I said, this is the world. We almost have to, when we were shaming and using religion and have moral, like, and there was more morality in the world, it was a way to manipulate people into doing the right things, because I honestly think that people don't genuinely do the right things. We're genuinely selfish. And if it just happens that being selfish somehow did good for somebody else, it's like a win-win. But we'll always prioritize ourselves, especially when we're not even shamed into looking out for our fellow man. And that's going across the board, men and women, but women in particular, because women, I think, digest the internet way worse. And they don't see it. So, yeah, that's my thoughts on it. It's crazy. The world is fucked. We're going to think ourselves out of existence. It is what it is. Send the meteor and let's have a redo. But it's your boy Logic. I'll holla at y'all later. Peace.